Hello and welcome to the Mindset Nebula podcast, where we discuss all things SAP, technology, and design. My name is Ethan Jewett. I'm a director of DevOps development and technology at Mindset. I'm joined today by three excellent guests, two many-time repeat podcasters, but one new person. So we'll go around really quickly. We have Yelena.
Hey everyone, I'm Yelena Perfileva. I'm expert SAP developer with Mindset.
And Joseph. Hey, Joseph.
Hello everyone, this is Joseph Chinnabatni, technology pre-sales and BTP solution architect at Mindset. Little over 7 months with Mindset journey. So I'm super happy and love to have this conversation into this level. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And then from our office in India, we've got Deepika. Hello, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Ethan and everyone. My name is Deepika. I'm a senior developer at Mindset, working in more in S/4HANA on-premise and cloud. I'm a cloud enthusiast, so that's why I have an interest in clean code, because I think it spans both, like on all the areas from on-premise and ECC to BTP. We have so many things to do there. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Yes, and so today we're going to be talking about clean core, which is a big topic right now in the SAP world. It was a lot of talk about clean core at Sapphire, and we talked a little bit about that during our Sapphire kind of roundup podcast that we did not long ago, and we thought we'd dive into it a little bit more. So let's get started. I think maybe we should start out with sort of what is clean core. Deepika, do you want to dive into that and tell us a little bit about what you see clean core as?
Yeah, sure. So with clean core, the idea is basically to build cloud-ready solutions and stay cloud compliant. So even if we are not on cloud, we should be cloud compliant. That whenever in the future we want to eventually move on to cloud, it could be BTP or S/4HANA cloud for that matter, we should be in a position that we can easily move on there without any hiccups, like hard hiccups. So that is the idea behind clean core. And so to understand what is clean core, I think the best definition that I have seen about clean core is that we break it into two parts, clean and core. So what does clean mean here is that clean in terms of our software, our business processes, our software versions, our data, everything. So we say that, staying up to date, staying transparent, having consistent and efficient processes, then adhering to the best development guidelines, standard SAP guidelines that are given to us. Doing all that means that we are staying clean. Also, extensibility plays a very big part here. Customization plays a very big part here. So we need to understand how much of a customization is actually needed and how we can do it in the best way possible so that we can stay cloud ready. And coming to the core part, core just means that whatever we do in our day-to-day businesses, like we have data, we have processes, we can have integrations. In ERP we have operations, we have business processes. So all these together, they combinedly make the core. So the idea is to just keep the core clean, that is to staying up to date with the processes and staying up to date with the software version, and seeing if we are not heavily customizing our solutions, so that in future we might have some hurdles to move on to cloud. So that is what clean code is basically. But I would just say, to summarize what is it, to I think it's a mindset that we need to adapt, and it should be adapted as soon as possible on all levels of software development, at least in ERP solutions. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Deepika. So when we're talking about clean core, and SAP has kind of a whole methodology around it. Joseph, you've been looking into that a little bit. Do you want to talk about sort of SAP's methodology and the way that they ask us to look at things, which is not always ideal, but it's always useful at least to understand what SAP is thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on the clean core methodology, right? Like, when we say in this digital era, right, like many organizations are facing like numerous challenges, such as like, fierce competition, budget constraints, many sustainable growth of a complex task. Like during this pandemic situation, like, many of the customers have already started adopting some new IT practices, extensive ERP solutions with industry-specific modules, like providing standard processes while allowing customers to develop their own customized features, right, using web development. So one of the main topic here is like why clean core and what is its methodology, right? So achieving pure clean core is a hard challenge for any enterprise because every customer has done tons of customization in their ECC landscape, right? And which has many custom code enable business processes as well. Like the objective, for brainstorming different aspects and set up foundation with different methodologies that are potentially available. Like one is how do you define drivers, and analyze current state, identify a suitable implementation options, and defining a proper roadmap. So with this methodology, I think it would be very easy for any SAP customer to move on with the clean core concept. And how do we achieve that? We have some like implementation strategies, like clean core implementation strategy, I would say. We can summarize is based on, like, for example, like lift and shift. So that is the best strategy to adopt if the current custom code is already defined in a good shape. It requires a minimal migration effort to move to target architecture, and boom, the code starts working again, right? Another implementation strategy would be on improve and move. So what it does is in this strategy, like we improve the current code base and make it isolated by defining a clear boundaries. Okay, and it requires a minimal migration effort to move to target architecture, and again, boom, it works again. So the third implementation strategy, I would say, is like rip and replace incrementally. So this is slightly different from improve and move strategy, lift and shift. But what we're trying to do is redesign part of the function or a specific feature as a new microservice and replacing it with the current setup, then move the next feature and so on. So you're trying to rip it off all the features and then trying to replace incrementally. And last, I would say, is like redesign and replace. So this is more reevaluating the existing functionality, identifying your pain points, and once it is done, like we collect all the new features, we would like redesign feature by feature, and completely replacing with the existing functions for it.
Great. What all of these things either rhyme or alliterate, right? We've got improve and move, we've got lift and shift, we've got rip and replace.
It's all
customers
flexibility. Customers flexibility, right?
Like,
I mean, end of the day, how business processes are associated to it, and what is the right approach. And I've seen in the past, like where the customer is like, okay, we would like to move on to S/4HANA. Perfect. Okay, and should we go in a greenfield? Should we go in a brownfield? Like this whole different topics. And again, the clean core came in picture, right? And okay, let's move to S4, but with clean core. So that is the whole lot of confusion, because like there are tons of code customized sitting in ECC, and and how the business processes should ensure adapting all those custom code and should magically work so that they don't reinvest on their development efforts, reinvest on their infrastructure and whatnot, right? So all these things, they want to ensure that okay, we are anyways moving to next level of ERP. Now, how are we going to ensure that ours, like, whatever sitting in the junk in the source system should not carry forward into the S4 landscape, right? So they just want to clean it. And one simple example is like the custom code analysis when the customer is moving to BTP or S/4HANA, right? So doing a proper analysis of custom code, identifying all the Z and Y objects, and setting up a certain level that, hey, these are the Z objects which are not really required, and these are the Z objects or Y objects which are really required, and how we can ensure that these are like compatible with S/4HANA, right? So that all these pieces are definitely helps business to choose a right methodology and right solution.
Yeah. Okay, great. Excellent. So I mean, I think this often becomes a kind of a bit of a question for developers, and I mean, I think everybody should feel free to jump in at any time, but I was sort of wondering, Yelena, how does, like, what's the role of the developer in this? What should developers be thinking about right now? How does ABAP fit in here? Like, do we need ABAP anymore after we're clean? Is it gone? what do we do?
Yeah, the clean core messaging from SAP has definitely caused a lot of confusion. I think I would like to start with what clean core is not. It's definitely not pure vanilla SAP that has no customizations and no custom codes. That's definitely incorrect, I believe, interpretation of what SAP is trying to say. For developers, for ABAP developers specifically, I will just focus on that area, on backend and ABAP development. Right now, if you're still working with on-premise systems, it might not mean as much immediately, but I think it's most important to keep yourself educated about what is coming, about the extensibility options that exist in cloud. And it's of utmost importance to be prepared for what will be coming for us eventually. I hear many times people are saying, oh, we do not have any kind of, our spouse PDD is very clean, so we don't have any core modifications. It's great, and definitely clean core has been messaged all along since many years ago. But I think, as Deepika noted, it deviated slightly from what clean core meant maybe 10 years ago. Now, it's not just about having no core modifications, but it's also about cloud readiness and being prepared for what is next for SAP ERP systems. So if you are already working with some cloud products, great, good for you. Just do more of that. If not, I think if you haven't started yet, and I sincerely hope everyone already did, because otherwise it's a big issue. If you have not started, if you have not had any hands-on experience with that, just sign up for SAP BTP free trial, get yourself access to that shared cloud system that they have, and try some of the ABAP prep code, some of the new extensibility techniques, so that you know how to do that, and so that you can try to start preparing what code you have right now in your system, and understand how will it needs to be transformed in order to get into the cloud readiness. Again, just purely from the practical standpoint, I doubt many SAP customers will start just changing their code for no apparent reason, just to make it more cloud ready. It just doesn't happen at large companies as easily. If it does for you, you're extremely lucky. But again, just being practical here. But it doesn't mean that we just can sit back and relax until we get to the cloud migration. And especially whatever new code you write, make sure that it does not follow the old techniques that got us into trouble before. So old one, it's fine to keep it for now. It may need to be changed, but new one, definitely start using the proper technique for your SAP version and release, and learn ahead. Deepika, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, to focus on the ABAP. ABAP is not going anywhere, even if we are talking about implementing clean core in BTP. We have embedded steampunk, which is now called S4HANA ABAP cloud environment in BTP. So that is always there. Then we can always have clean core with a RESTful ABAP programming model. We can have it with a cloud application programming model as well. So it's not like when we are talking about clean core, our expertise and knowledge on ABAP is just lost there, and we are not able to use it. We will definitely be able to use it, and there are more tools and technical concepts that are coming, that have come in newly, for us to maybe just get updated with and see how we can best utilize ABAP while we are on the journey for the clean core.
Yeah. I think this is really an opportunity that developers don't get a lot of the time, to use SAP's push and marketing message and message around preparation for cloud to be able to get buy-in from our companies to pay down technical debt that we've got in our system. So if we've got like huge user exits that are causing problems, we can make the case that Clean Core is telling us we need to refactor this stuff. And the custom code migration application says that this is a problem, and therefore we should invest in improving the situation. If we're on, I want to come back to something you said, Yelena. We need, as developers, to be using the right tool for the SAP version that we're on. And that changes all the time. So the answer to a question of how I do something to enhance my system if I'm on ECC is almost certainly going to be different from the answer to how to do that if I'm on S4HANA version 2020 on-premise, or if I'm on S4HANA version 2022 on-premise, or if I'm on S4HANA public cloud. Like, the answers to those questions are different in each of those different systems. And as developers, we need to understand what the answers to those questions are in the system that we're on and the system that we're going to, because we're going to need to help our architects and companies understand how we should be approaching these problems. So, we've done, like Elena, you and I have done some work on what are all the different sort of enhancement mechanisms, and how do they change? And so there are a ton of them, and it's really hard to understand. Even just ABAP CDS and ABAP wrap, like what you can do from version to version changes pretty drastically. So it's something that we really need to educate ourselves on as developers.
One of the topics which I would like to highlight here is the way SAP is also targeting partners, how to release their custom build the classic ABAP add-ons. For example, the partner add-on must be fully technical requirements with AAK processing. It's properly built on AAK tool, which SAP does that, which is called ABAP add-on toolkit. And it is packaged and deployed. Add-on assembly kit. Sorry about that. And which no modification is allowed, no direct update of SAP tables are allowed, and no uninstallation is supported in very for every custom product which SAP or SAP partners does that. That's very important because what we have seen in the past is customer would like to do a technical upgrade. They want to do a conversion or migration, right? So when they start doing this, when the third-party add-ons are deployed into their systems, if that is being delivered as part of transport or something like that, then it's difficult for them to uninstall them, or maybe there won't be any migration path because that's a showstopper for their doing technical migration, saying that okay, this is third party, so ask for the ACP file or something like that where they can move on so that they can have a successful conversion. With that, that's a big challenge because they have to delete forcibly from the tables level of its respective add-on, which is delivered through transports, right? What SAP is highly encouraging is for every partners is to, if you're building your products for a particular customer, that has to be through AAK process so that there is a proper uninstallation supported, just like SAP does to any customer. So where you can install and uninstall through, say, internal spam transaction codes.
Cool. Yeah, so look for that. I remember back in the bad old days when add-ons couldn't be uninstalled, and that caused endless problems for upgrades. But that's
Oh
no
yeah,
longer
I know.
the case.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How does BTP fit into this? I mean, Deepika, you said you're a BTP enthusiast. No, I'm sorry, you said you're a cloud enthusiast. That's a difference, right? But
Yeah.
like, how does BTP fit in? How does cloud fit in? What should we be looking to do? As you know, if we're on-prem developers or if we've got an on-prem system that we're maintaining, how should we be looking to leverage cloud? Should we be looking to do that? What's your thought on that?
I think to answer the question, should we be looking for that? I think it just depends. It's not like because everyone is talking about cloud and clean core, that's why and anyone should do it. There should be a necessary and genuine reason to do that. Clean core is, of course, it is always recommended because the future we can't deny it. It's the cloud only. So we should the idea is just to stay cloud compliant so that whenever the need comes, it's we are ready to move to cloud. But it's not like now itself we have to do something, but we can get there gradually. And when it comes to BTP, we have many equivalent things currently that we do, like the RISE-F objects that we have in on-premise in S/4HANA or ECC. We have equivalent concepts in BTP as well, so we can look into those options. We have build process automation. So if we have like very simple processes in our businesses, we can maybe just automate them using the low code no code approach. Then we have integration. Then we have SAP Business Accelerator Hub, which is a very good option for looking for standard APIs and any other standard offerings like CDS views or integration scenarios, or any there are a number of possibilities there on the hub. So before we just go into making something, or we should also be aware that we are not duplicating any already existing SAP standard process, so that we can be mindful when we are into on premise. And we can also check if there is already readily available API that we can use instead of building a new one. So these are very small things, but this all these things like they lead to a very big beneficial change even when we are staying in on premise, and it will help us to move to BTP or any other cloud platform for that matter, now that SAP is also hosted on AWS, Azure.
Yeah. Helps us do development more quickly on-prem also, right? If we're mindful of these things, then we can move much faster on-prem and not be burdened by technical debt that would make our development process slower. So, great. Yeah, the API one is a key call out that I think we all need to be thinking about, especially as we get on newer and newer versions of S/4HANA, where there are more sort of like real APIs that are provided by SAP. We want to leverage those. We want to make use of those.
Yeah. And I second Yelena also, like she mentioned that it's not like we cannot have customization. It's just that we should be mindful when we are building customization, and also we should focus on building the update and upgrade safe customization. Is I think that's an ask
Yeah.
for the developers.
One of the
Yeah,
big
one
questions comes from the
Go ahead.
customers is like, when they say clean core, does SAP is restricting not to do any more enhancements in the, in S4? Is that I mean, that's a common question that every customer is having, right? So how do, I mean, from developer standpoint, it's not only from developers, from business processes standpoint, it's highly impossible that you cannot enhance, your code or your business logic, which is sitting there. Like not every business is same, right?
Yeah.
In that case, you have to go and do customization at certain level, right? So is this clean core really confusing SAP customers? And how can we really avoid this confusion? I mean, Ethan, from your standpoint, like what do you guys think from developer standpoint? Like, is it just a what do you call it, a brand name where SAP is releasing, or is it more of a new process to the business?
Yeah, I think there's sort of a hierarchy. Like if we look at modern versions of S4HANA, so S4HANA 2021, 2022, even back to 2019 in some cases, there's now a hierarchy of development. So, and this is a place where I think developers really need to kind of get with the program to some extent, because there was the old way of doing development work, and that's lowest on the hierarchy now. It's like the last resort of development. The approach now really is we look at the sort of lowest impact way of implementing the solution, and we choose that when we have a new requirement or when we have an updated requirement. So we first look at things like screen personas and just key user adaptation, where we're hiding fields and that kind of thing. And then we look at using the in-app extension framework, which is part of the key user adaptation framework. And this is not really a framework for key users. This is a framework for developers, right? So it involves writing ABAP code sometimes through these Fiori apps, like the custom business objects and logic application. You're actually doing like body implementations and that sort of thing. It involves designing data models. But we need to be using that adaptation layer instead of doing development in like customer namespace Z objects. And so we do that next. And then the next is, in really modern systems, the next is the embedded steampunk, right? Which is like doing cloud-based development, but it's writing your system, and you can only use exposed APIs from SAP. So it's limited, but in 2022 and onwards, there are a lot more APIs available, so you can do a lot there, including direct access to CDS views, which is something you can't do in cloud. So that's kind of a nice feature of the embedded steampunk, and that's even in S4HANA Cloud. So like those approaches are all fully cloud compatible. The sort of last resort is the old customer namespace development, right? So doing like direct user exit implementation, building whole frameworks or whole applications in the customer namespace. That should be the last resort now. Each of those hierarchies, like each of those levels of the hierarchy, has a lot of limitations, and that's what we really have to educate ourselves on, because we need to be able to understand, what we can actually use it for. And that's like the challenge of the modern SAP developer, I think, is can you make the right decision about how you're going to implement something? And oftentimes through experimentation, you're going to just have to try it and struggle with it and be like, oh man, the custom business objects application, I can create this data model, but I can't quite get the data model that I want. Am I going to be able to do it or not? That's something you're going to have to experiment with and to get a feel for, so that you can make the right decisions about how you're going to implement. So it's going to be a challenge, but there are so many more tools now that are available, and we need to leverage them. I don't know. I mean, Yelena, does that sound right to you? What did I get wrong there?
No, I think you're right. I just want to summarize that maybe and bring it to slightly higher level. Everything that we do in SAP development, it needs to create business value for SAP customers. If there is no value, then just don't do it. And I think in Clean Core is not solely a challenge for developers or even SAP functional consultants to solve. It's also a challenge for the business users, for stakeholders, decision makers in the business who may not have technical SAP knowledge, but it is for them to decide what should we pursue at what time and maybe when, and then also listen to their technical specialists for their advice on how best to solve specific issues. So this communication, collaboration between business and IT developers, again, functional analysts, it's extremely important at this time, because right now, if you make wrong design decision in your on-premise system, it's going to follow you for a very long time. You're just going to pile up on top of your technical debt, and it's not going to be good. So obviously, sometimes, yes, difficult decision needs to be made. If there is legal requirement or something like that, then you have to solve it however possible. But we have seen, unfortunately, as consultants, we sometimes cannot just decline our clients to do something. So it's really important to just make a decision. Should you really do this or not? That's how you keep the core really clean, and not in a technical way.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So I think let's jump into a little bit of a round robin, kind of to wrap this up, I guess. What should SAP customers be doing right now? Like, I mean, especially customers who aren't running S/4HANA public cloud, they're running private cloud, or they're running on-prem. What should those customers be doing immediately? I guess, you might repeat yourself a little bit, Yelena, but let's start with you. What should be the steps that people should be taking right now?
I think for the business users, it's looking at their business processes and maybe starting some evaluation. Again, it's not just about technical solutions. Business also needs to be transformed. You cannot automate bad business process. So if someone is counting on technology to solve their bad business decisions, it's just not going to happen. In S/4HANA in cloud, like never, ever. For developers, as we noted through this podcast, just learn what is ahead for you. For ABAP developers, it's ABAP Prep, which is now wrapped into bigger concept of ABAP Cloud. So just keep yourself educated and practice. It's not just attend course. Get yourself trial system or some kind of sandbox system at work if you can, and just practice those development skills.
Cool. How about from your end, Joseph? What should people be doing right now?
I have written one of the blog which is related to the versions of SAP, the way it is releasing. So I'm reflecting to this question. The reason why is there are many calls where I've been attended, or customer calls especially, they're heavily confused on what path they should go, because earlier that was only S4 private, and now they're saying it's S4 cloud, BTP services. You have this, you have that, and they already procure license for BTP, spend pay-as-you-go model subscription, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year now, they have done nothing. So that's a big confusion, because they're paying to SAP and they're not leveraging the fruit out of it, right? So what I would strongly recommend is customers to educate themselves, as Yelena mentioned, themselves, and understand what is the right approach for them to proceed. I've seen clearly in the past where they started with the greenfield and they said oh, what about the data? We have to get our data in place. So let's switch to conversion. And then the whole project was from green to brown is completely changed. And, the challenges which they, getting after doing the conversion is totally fine, but they don't want to lose the data in place, right? So now all those pieces now available as a services in BTP, right? So, it could be integration, it could be extensibility, it could be a different automation process, a build, portal, and work zone, and all that stuff, right? So technically, you don't no longer require those as an on-prem system in the landscape. So that itself is your resolving a lot of your user experience issues, infrastructure, sustainability, all these pieces will be aligned properly. So overall, they should have a proper strategy of choosing, okay, if BTP has a roadmap of like next 5 to 10 years, and all our services should be moving on to the cloud, then what our business processes are running on. Okay, so automation, we need that, and something else, we need that. Portal, we need that. So if business is running only on these three, they don't need to really leverage their infrastructure to build a separate server or third-party systems, whereas BTP already having those services readily available. So just plug in, enable, run, and explore. So these are a few things which I would highly recommend.
And Deepika, from your perspective, what should customers be doing right now?
So I think Yelena already covered the business decision making part of it. So I would just add that maybe from the technical perspective, we can see if we are having some absolutely unnecessary processes or code, which is not at all required now. We can maybe try to eliminate that, or if we have like heavy technical debt, we can start with documenting it so that we get a clarity about where we can change things, where we cannot change things, where we are facing challenges, where it is easy to maybe take it towards the cleaner approach. Third thing, if there is a new requirement, I like this is I think from the technical perspective and the business decision making perspective as well, that there is a new business process challenge or a new requirement. Can we see if it is possible? By all means, if we follow an unmodified standard approach, like we try to follow, where we are not changing much in the core, like which is given to us, and if with that mindset we can go forward, or we can maybe see, can we do it in completely BTP and not build on top of the legacy code which we already have. So I think those are some small steps that can be taken, and it can be taken right away. Just start evaluating where we are going wrong, where we are going right, what can we change easily, and what challenges do we have, how we can tackle them, like this.
Yeah, I love your. I was going to say something very similar to your second point, especially, but I think all those were great points. The on the technical debt piece, I think really, even just measuring where you are currently is a step further than most organizations are right now. Most organizations are not, most SAP organizations are not tracking their technical debt, and even if you're not looking at going to S/4HANA, or if you're already on S/4HANA, but you're not looking to upgrade to the latest version in the very near future, I'd really recommend that SAP shops be running SAP's upgrade assessment tools, because those give you at least one metric on your technical debt. Like if you run the custom code analysis tool, it's going to tell you where it assesses that you have debt that's going to be a problem, and you can use that as a starting point. And then you can deploy. Some patterns are very easy to deploy, where you can just install notes or make very simple changes. But there's going to be bigger stuff, and you can start to think about architecturally, how am I going to deal with this? What kinds of refactoring patterns am I going to deploy? And is there anything that I can start now? And you can start reacting. Kind of in a way that is non-disruptive, but allows you to improve your position. So I've got a small project. It's going to mean that I'm going to need to touch this code that I know has technical debt. And I've already identified sort of one of the patterns that we want to deploy. Maybe this is an opportunity to just make that change and improve our overall situation. And you can only do that if you've done the work to actually analyze. So I think doing that is super, super important. Great. So this has been a great conversation. Any last thoughts on Clean Core and SAP's situation there right now?
Yeah, the core components which I would like bring to notice is the 6 pillars of the Clean Core. So, like to start with, the software stack, right? So the main problem with many of the customers is, unless and until if it is required, they're going to update to the latest support pack level or enhancement pack level and stuff like that, right? Or they will be happy with patching the nodes. So, and especially with this new Fiori era, right? So everybody started doing the technical upgrade more frequently. Like, they have to do at least once in a year. Back in ECC, I hardly seen they're doing their enhancement pack upgrade very rarely, like, or maybe support pack upgrade unless and if the business process really required. There's a lot of cycles involved, testing cycles involved, right? So overall, the way they want to adapt with Fiori and all this user experiences for HANA stuff like is, SAP is releasing some very innovative solution. Okay, in order to have this, you need to have latest and greatest support pack level or feature pack stack. So the software stack in the versions of the foundational standard software in user, like, ERP, database, etc., like that needs to be up to date. So that is one of the core component, just by being or staying latest and greatest software pack versions. And the second pillar is the extensibility, as you guys are very heavily involved on those stuff. So the functionality added to the standard software, which extends to its address organization needs that are not met by the standard, right? So standard software. So that's one of the extensibility is the core pillar for the clean core concept. And the integration. So the integration is very, it's a common communication between extensions and standard solutions, as well as communication between solutions. So that is another third pillar, which is heavily involved. And the processes, the series of actions or the steps taken to your systems, like end-to-end process. So that is one thing which they added, another pillar. And data. So with the current data, configuration data, master data, transactional data, so all these three falls under the data pillar as well. And operations, the final step is like the governance part, right? So the governance where responsible for managing your infrastructure and upgrading decisions needs to be taken. So all these things combined together will help a proper, clean core, I would say, environment to the customer.
Yeah. So think about each of those areas, definitely. Great. Thank you for the summary, Joseph. That was excellent. Thanks everybody. Thanks to all of you for joining on the Mindset Nebula. Talk about clean core. It was a great conversation. I hope that it's helpful for everybody who's listening, and we will be back soon with our next topic and our next group of experts. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.